pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight downside, speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening, space fans. The NASA Spaceflight crew is back with yet more space coverage. We are here from the press site at Cape Canaveral Kennedy Space Center this evening, waiting for a Falcon 9 on pad 39A to lob another set of Starlink internet satellites up into the, well, just slightly above the wild blue yonder. I'm John Galloway for NASA Spaceflight here. I'll be one of your hosts. Let me know if you can hear me and see the live feed from the Kennedy Space Center press site there. Give me a 5x5 in chat. Y'all are very well trained. Chat is already filled with 5x5s, and I didn't even have to say it. Excellent. Excellent. So out there this evening, we will be bringing you live coverage of this Falcon 9, and we have a few NASA Spaceflight personnel out there at the Cape, starting off with Chris Gebhardt. Chris, do we have you on the comms net right now?
You do indeed. What a wonderful evening, DOS, our time zone, and good whatever time it is to all of you watching around the world.
All right. So Chris Gebhardt is the assistant managing editor for NASA Spaceflight. Rolled out, drove about an hour plus to get down there this evening, and brought the live stream camera rig, and will be out there doing some commentary, Q&A, and all the things that we like to do here on the NASA Spaceflight channel. Also out on the Cape this evening is Thomas Berghardt. Thomas, we got you on comms?
You do. How's it going, everybody?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm like the only one talking, though. Chad, how are y'all doing? I think he was talking to you. Oops.
Yeah, Chet. How are you doing, Chet? Yeah, welcome to the Kennedy Space Center. Hopefully, this long-delayed Starlink mission will finally be able to take to the skies from 39A tonight. It should be a clear and beautiful night for a launch.
Good deal. And then also out there this evening, I believe, do we have Steven out there this evening, y'all?
He's somewhere, but not with us.
Okay, he's somewhere photographing the launch, but not with y'all. Gotcha.
Yes.
So he'll
Same
be
with
doing
Julia. She's not physically with us, but shooting today. Yes.
Good deal. So we got two people out there at the press site to bring you live coverage of the hopeful Starlink launch coming up in about 53 minutes. So also back in the studio, Michael Baylor. Michael, I'm telegraphing that I'm saying your name. He's put his name on the screen. Certainly he's here.
I'm here.
Okay. All right, good deal. Michael Baylor joining us as well, helping do production back in the studio, which is literally just all of us at our homes, except for the people that are at the Cape. But like I said, about 53 minutes before the T0, this is one of those, not instantaneous, but realistically, you get one chance to launch. And Thomas, you said this was Starlink 53, 47, 86, 17. What number Starlink is this?
You know, it's easy to lose track these days, isn't it? So this particular Starlink mission is the Starlink version 1.0 L17 mission, which, to add to the confusion, is the 20th Starlink mission. So this particular mission has been delayed for a couple times, so L18 and L19 have already launched. However, this is the L17 mission after some technical scrubs. This particular Falcon 9 has static fired before this launch twice, so they were clearly working through some sort of technical things. There's also some weather delays thrown in there, drone ship-related delays. There were a couple things thrown in there, and then most recently, the Starlink L19 mission, which of course had the failed Falcon 9 landing attempt out on, Of Course I Still Love You. So there was a delay due to that as well, but finally they are back to sort of make its return to flight, so to speak. Falcon 9 didn't really have a launch failure per se, but this will be the first Falcon 9 landing attempt since the most recent Starlink mission. And finally, version 1.0 L17 should attempt to get off the ground tonight.
All right. So this is one that's been trying to get out there, get up there, I guess, for a while, and hopefully we get it going this evening. Chris, what's the weather looking like? I know you were tracking the weather there as you were coming down. Are we still looking good for weather? Or we got storms rolling in, or what's the weather?
So for liftoff, weather considerations, which is just the weather at the Kennedy Space Center, things are looking marvelously well for liftoff tonight. Well greater than a 90% chance of acceptable weather conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. In fact, it's crystal clear, very pleasant, mild breeze. It's about as perfect as you could hope for liftoff conditions. The moderate risk of concern will come with the drone ship and the landing of the first stage booster, which carried a moderate risk. So we will be listening into the SpaceX launch director's comm network here once that goes live, as that will give us some indication as they head toward the start of fueling operations here at T-minus 35 minutes, whether or not the weather looks to be improving or good in the recovery area, or improving if it's not good, and they'll make that determination then.
Gotcha. And I switched over to Fleet Cam, and above the bright lights of the port, you can actually see, those aren't stuck pixels, I think they're actually stars. So it is looking nice and clear out there this evening for a launch. So let's hope that it gets going. Let me grab a couple super chats real quick, and while I'm grabbing the super chats, remember, we do these live. One of the things that we do with NASA Spaceflight is we like to answer questions, engage with people. We don't have like a script. You might have noticed that sometimes. But we like to engage with people and help bring the excitement and a little bit of understanding about what's going on here this evening to all sorts of people all over the world. So if you've got a question for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. And that goes into some cool software that Michael wrote, and we can pull questions out of the queue. So got questions, put them in the chat now while I read some super chats, which we also really appreciate. Axie, thank you so much for the $5, saying go Internet Rocket go. Of course, the Starlink satellites are those SpaceX internet satellites, so we appreciate the support. ZOMG, this is awesome, lol. You're supposed to say lol? I think you're supposed to say lol. Anyways, it says, hey, rocket goes burr. It's not, well, I mean, it will be cold once they start the cryogenic fueling, but appreciate the $5 Australian there. Oh my God. Musical Wolves with a question. Will Perseverance use Starlink? Unlikely. I don't think that the Perseverance rover on Mars is going to use Starlink, because you'd have to get an antenna. Like, somebody would have to take a Starlink antenna to it. It doesn't have one.
This is true, but I think the spirit of the question is, could you use Starlink on Mars, period? In which case the answer might eventually be yes. Elon has mentioned the fact of using some sort of maybe modified Starlink satellite at Mars for communications relays and maybe eventually internet access. So if we had like people on the red planet that could hook Percy up with a Starlink antenna, in theory that could happen. I don't know.
I hope you stretched well before this broadcast, because that was a read.
Hey, only 11 minutes latency between planets. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, so good question. If Perseverance had a Starlink antenna and there were Starlinks situated around Mars, then perhaps in the future. Don't hold your breath. Toys are for boys with the Canadian dollars here, saying here's some money to keep the evil out of the booster so it can land flawlessly. At least I think that's how it works. Thank you, Toys are for boys, for the support. Tano coming through with the $4.99. We appreciate you, Tano. Thank you for that. Sam Halter with $20. Hope you're doing well. Sam, thank you for joining us this evening. One of those names that we see quite frequently with the coverage here in the NASA Spaceflight live streams. We appreciate you. Glad you're always showing up, Sam. Hope you're doing well. Rough Rider Show sneaking through another question. Any signs on the extra building structure for Falcon Heavy extended fairing configuration? You got eyes on anything?
So the big, I don't know if it's a mobile servicing tower or a vertical integration facility or something, whatever they're calling it. They are building one at Pad 39A. From our perspective here, I can't see anything. Granted, it's really dark out, so don't know if that's fair. I don't know if we've seen any major signs of any buildup for that. Although I will also clarify, it's not just for the extended fairing configuration. It's mostly about being able to vertically integrate payloads, period, on either Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, regardless of which fairing configuration it uses. But I don't think we've seen any visible progress, although I would be surprised if they have not at least started some ground level work for that end.
Yeah, agree on you there, Thomas, or agree with you there, Thomas. And we're worth noting too, the last time that a member of the NSF team was at 39A was in November for Crew 1. We do not do the customary go to the pad and set remote cameras for the Starlinks, in part due to their routineness, in part due to the pandemic. So our next option to actually have, like, in terms of us, our team members having eyes on the ground at 39A would be Crew 2. In April, in terms of like us being able to actually see the work that's being done, unless Elon or SpaceX wishes to, show us earlier. Always
Yeah.
up for anything.
Just tossing that out there. Excellent.
When build.
Oh.
When build.
When build. Yeah, right. When extended fairing. When all sorts of stuff. Hey, JD Brown, thank you so much as well. A question about the last one. We were mentioning this, B-1059 overshooting the drone ship in the last launch. What did SpaceX find? So did SpaceX give any official update on what went wrong there, or were they sort of tight-lipped about that one?
They were tight-lipped, but they also gave a very small update. Hans Königsmann, did I pronounce that right? Okay, I think
You
you're right.
did,
Cool.
yes.
Who is, I believe, transitioning to retirement soon, but he is still working at SpaceX right now. Director of Flight Reliability, I believe, is his title. In a recent press conference about something completely unrelated, but he was asked about the most recent landing, and he did say that they believe it was heat damage of some kind. I believe he also said that the investigation was ongoing, and thus he cannot talk anymore about that. Seeing as this Falcon 9 is going to prepare for a liftoff attempt tonight, I would say it's safe to say that investigation has closed since. So maybe Elon will be able to provide a little more info on Twitter or something afterwards. But we do know it was some sort of heat damage of some kind, likely during that reentry burn, where we saw some sort of extra plasma than usual, perhaps. Not sure exactly any more details than that, but it was something regarding reentry.
All right, so something didn't quite go right according to them, and that caused the rocket not to land. Because we are talking, last time we were standing by for that landing, and it never happened. We just saw it light up, and then we saw some seagulls be like, what was that? And continue to sit on the deck of the drone ship, and they are not rockets. They are seagulls. And the fact that they were still there means the rocket was not on the drone ship. So,
but to be fair, the drone ship did successfully return the seagulls to port for flight again. So
we were watching on Fleet Cam, and when the drone ship came back in without the booster, there were seagulls sitting on the deck. So we're like, okay, all right.
Ironically, like the same number. Like it was.
No, it was both.
Perfect.
It was 3 seagulls both times. I choose to believe it was the same seagulls.
Yes,
don't.
Exactly.
We're gonna have to start tagging them, like putting a little. Like on the their feet, little band. Anyways,
real quick, I believe I just saw an update that we should probably share.
Yes, what was that?
NSF's Mary, also known as Boca Chica Gal, is reporting that she has received an update that Starship SN10 will not fly until Wednesday, March 3rd. It was previously scheduled for an attempt no earlier than tomorrow, which we discussed during our update stream earlier, and I believe we had also tweeted that, or Mary had tweeted that. But Mary's now tweeting that has been delayed till no earlier than Wednesday. So Starship fans should know that SN10 test flight no earlier than Wednesday now.
All right.
And I think a lot of us just breathed a sigh of relief, because if this goes tonight, this is literally the third launch and spacewalk we've had within 21 hours.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we all might breathe a sigh of relief at that.
So again, y'all, repeating the late breaking news, we were talking early, Mary tweeted about being asked to evacuate tomorrow, and then they got back to her later in the evening and said she was not going to evacuate tomorrow. Starship SN10, if you're following Starship, will not happen until, at the earliest, Wednesday, March 3rd was Mary's update. Literally just tweeted that out a few seconds ago. So hot off the presses there for the Texas tank watching Starship fans down, wherever you're watching from, I guess is the right way to say it. Let me grab a couple more super chats here. Tyanus Cygnus, thanks so much for the $5. You rock. Make America metal again. Nice. We appreciate you, Tyanus. Also, we've got Jared Horoff saying Jack Bayer Flan Club. Nice. I almost said Flan Club there, like the little dish dessert thing. But anyways, Jared, we appreciate the support. Paul Weiber says, do you foresee Falcon 9 ever launching from Boca Chica? Boca Chica not intended to be a Falcon 9 facility of any sort, right, y'all?
Not now.
Not now.
It was at one point.
Yeah, originally it was thought that primarily it would be a good location for the Heavy, but as Starship development really picked up, no chance of the Falcon 9. No, it's very happy at 40, 39A, and 4E.
Gotcha.
And 4W, yes.
over Vandenberg, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, the pad
and it
numbers
looks
of
like it's snowing really quickly there. Can y'all
Did you lose our feed?
Yes, we did. If you could. Nope, it came back. It was just a temporary hiccup.
Yeah, I was going to say, Solo says it's good.
Interesting. That was actually both things hiccuping there. Fleet cam hiccuped as well. Uh-huh.
A disturbance was felt throughout the internet.
Yeah, interesting.
The internet is upset that Starship SN10 has been delayed.
Well, let me grab a couple more super chats here. Bill Sparks, appreciate the $5, saying more money to the Wind Hopper Fund. Nice. Andre Sarusi says, thanks for the coverage as always. Let's hope that ULA trained Seagulls take a day off today. So I haven't heard Tori talk about any Seagull training programs happening with United Launch Alliance. I think those were just normal tourist Seagulls hanging out on the drone ship. I did not see any ULA logos on them at all. So appreciate the 5 I'll show you there, Andre. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's see how stable that is now that I've recycled it. So let me grab a couple questions here, y'all, and toss it over to y'all in the field while I start to get us set up with our comms, like our mission control audio.
Sure.
Let's see here. Let's get something that is interesting here. Aha! Here's a good one. It's almost like we need Julia for this one. Matthew Carpenter asks, what drone ship and fairing catchers are being used tonight? So what is the fate of the fairings we expect?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is cool because it opens up avenues to talk about a couple of cool different things for this mission. So let's take the first one first. It is the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship, the original East Coast drone ship that is out there to catch this particular booster. The other one, of course, is Just to Read the Instructions, which was originally the West Coast drone ship that now moved over here. But yeah, the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship will be positioned down range 633 kilometers northeast of the launch pad to catch the booster. And the booster tonight is B1049, making its 8th flight. So this one previously launched the Telstar 18 Vantage mission in September of 2008. And then in 2019, it launched the Iridium 8 Starlink, the original Starlink test mission, the version 0.9 satellites. And then it launched a whole bunch of other Starlinks as well, including the L2, L7, L10, L15, and now the L17 mission. So that is the drone ship that will be there to catch the booster that is making its 8th flight today. That is 8 between 7 and 9. And then the fairing catcher halves, one half is making its 3rd flight after previously supporting a few Starlink missions, and the other fairing half is the first one to ever fly for a 4th time. So not just the booster recovery efforts that are panning out here for Starlink, but also the recovery efforts for the payload fairings. And Thomas, I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier this week about, obviously the first plan was to catch the fairings with the ships Go Mystery and
Ships
Go
that you're
Mischief,
seeing on your screen right now.
There we go. The ships that are downrange waiting to catch the fairings or fish them out of the water. They're about 710 kilometers northeast of the Space Center. But, the fairing recovery effort has been successful, but not quite the way it had originally been intended, right? Because they were originally thinking they would catch them and keep them from splashing into the saltwater, but they've kind of realized that just refurbing them, even if they land in the saltwater, is just as easy in some regards. So we have seen attempts where they've just let them splash and fish them out that way. But I know you were talking about that a little bit earlier this week, and you have some thoughts on that.
Well, right. So I should point out that the vessels that have been used for catch attempts, the reason you can see them on your screen right now is because they're still in Port Canaveral. They didn't go downrange for today's launch. That is Go Mystery and Go Mischief. And you may also notice that that ship only has 2 of her arms. I believe the other ship also is down to 2 arms. They're undergoing some significant reconfigurations. Clearly SpaceX may be tweaking their fairing recovery plans a little bit. That is not to say that they will not attempt fairing recovery tonight, because like Chris said, they will just allow the fairings to splash down under parachute and then be scooped. And the ships that are on task for that today are the Dragon recovery vessels, Go Navigator and Go Searcher, are both positioned downrange for fairing recovery tonight. And that seems to probably be an interim sort of solution while the actual fairing recovery vessels undergo whatever work that they're getting. but they will conduct fairing recovery efforts tonight with the normally Dragon recovery vessels.
Do you think we'll ever see them take the arms off Go Mystery and Go Mischief and just have them become fishing vessels, fairing fishing vessels, to be fair?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and the fact that they've taken 2 off already on both of them seems to maybe support that theory. Of course, they could just come back with better arms or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but yes, I believe that they will likely transition to a more consistent, let the fairing splash down and fish them out that way recovery method. Seems to have been working more consistently than trying to catch them.
They did not take off all 4 arms, though. I would have thought if they were definitively scrapping the catching, they would have taken off all 4 arms.
I mean, the only thing is, did they only have time to take 2 off of each so far or something? Like, I don't know. Maybe they'll get the other 2 off later. I don't know. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. And of course, Fleet Cam will help us do that. So
I don't know, but they took 2 off both ships. So I am predicting that they're upgrading the net system, but I don't know for sure.
Okay,
Gotcha.
we'll have to wait and see. But to answer the original question, yes, fairing recovery still on for tonight with Go Searcher and Go Navigator, and then the drone ship is, of course, I Still Love You.
And we are approaching 35 minutes mark. Did we get any call-outs over the launch net there while we were answering that question?
That's what I'm trying to pipe in right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't hear anything, but
I'm
I think we're
I'm
just
working on it.
the
I'm
audio.
working on it. Yeah.
At this exact moment, Falcon 9 fueling should have just started a couple seconds ago. They should be loading RP1 kerosene and liquid oxygen into the first stage, as well as RP1 kerosene into the second stage. And that is the beginning of Falcon 9 propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes. We're standing by for official confirmation, but we haven't heard any call-outs of contrary to that saying a scrub or anything. So I believe we're just waiting on getting the audio hooked up. But the Falcon 9 is officially into the countdown.
According to Emery Kelly, they did pull go, so they should have started it on time.
Okay. So yeah, right now the Falcon 9 countdown is then underway. We'll continue until just a couple of minutes, the final couple of minutes of the countdown. Liquid oxygen loading into stage 2 will begin at T-minus 16 minutes, and that's how both stages will get their fuel and oxidizer. And we will hopefully start seeing pretty soon some vapors near the bottom of the rocket and around the ground support equipment, which will indicate that those super cold propellants are flowing into Falcon 9 for tonight's launch.
And I know we get this. Go ahead, Thomas. Or sorry, go ahead, Michael. Yes.
I was going to say, I can confirm that it did start.
Gotcha. Perfection. And that brings us to a question I know we're going to get, and I know is on a lot of people's minds. How long is the launch window for tonight? If something happens, what after this point when propellant is being loaded, what do they do? So technically, there is a rough 10-minute launch window tonight that opens roughly 5 minutes before liftoff and extends 5 minutes after the targeted liftoff at 20:37 EST this evening. In effect, though, what that means is that you take the 10-minute window, you target the center of it because that's where you can maximize the performance and the efficiency of your vehicle because it can deliver the satellites directly into the orbital plane that they need to be in. But effectively, even though there's technically 5 minutes, they could launch after the actual targeted liftoff time because Falcon 9 recycles to the T-minus 11 or 13 or 16-minute point in its countdown. It basically effectively makes the window instantaneous. There's no real time to stop and solve an issue, especially with the very highly choreographed sequence that's now underway to permit fueling to wrap up just 2 minutes prior to lifting off the ground. So it is effectively an instantaneous window, meaning if a problem comes up, there's no time to fix it. But technically, there's 10 minutes. It's nice and weird when you're trying to get somewhere specific.
All right, and if y'all could keep getting some questions, Michael, I don't know if you could help pull some questions out there for me.
Do that.
Yeah, thank you.
A couple of
So Moonrise, Thomas. I don't think we can get it. I think it's behind the countdown clock from where you're set up.
Oh, yes. Considering I can't see it, yes.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
Question from Jake. Elon's on this rocket, right? I don't think so, Jake. Maybe in the future. Indy Racing Nut says, I feel like roasted seagulls tonight.
Oh, that's just me.
Nice.
Casey just told me that
Thomas.
the seagulls didn't get on the drone ship. How about we just do that instead?
Yeah, I think let's maybe hope that the seagulls stay a safe distance away. Thomas says, goodbye, Crispy's socials. That is a good point. Thank you
Oh
for bringing that
yeah,
up,
I forgot
Thomas.
about that.
Crispy promised, he said, you can quote me on this in a tweet, that Starship would fly by Tuesday. And the test flight is now delayed until Wednesday. I should even get that tweet screenshotted so we can put it on screen. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Thomas. That is a very good point. Steven with $2. Thank you, Steven. Bill says, for the coffee and cookie fund as usual. And Yanni says, much wow, everyone in the chat intensifies. And then we have a question from Roberto. How long has this rocket been vertical? You remember, Thomas, when it went vertical?
Well, okay, it went vertical about a month ago for the first attempt, but it's been put horizontal. It didn't stay vertical for a month. I do not know exactly when they raised it vertical for this particular launch attempt off the top of my head. But if they were working on it, or if they were within a lengthy stand down, they wouldn't keep the rocket vertical at the pad. They would lower it horizontal for that time.
I know in the previous Starlink launched a couple of weeks ago, this one was horizontal.
Yes.
At that point, yeah.
And Thomas, the zoom on this camera is so good, we can actually see the liquid oxygen line moving up the side of the rocket as it began propellant loading. So
I was going to point that out.
Coming off, and we should see that line rise.
Yeah, I was pointing that out, that the Falcon 9 fueling has definitely commenced, considering that we can see vapors on the side of the rocket.
Question from Matt. A lot of questions about where you will be able to see this launch. So Thomas, do you want to kind of run down where this launch will be visible from?
Right, so this launch is going like all Starlink launch. Well, I guess not all Starlink launches, I should preface that. They're going to go to different orbits eventually too. The standard Starlink mission goes to the northeast of Cape Canaveral, kind of along the coast of the Carolinas. So if you are at the part of Florida, Central Florida, kind of even with the Space Center, or north, feel free to look east over the Atlantic, and you might have a decent shot if you are in Georgia, South or North Carolina. I'm not sure if it's still visible by the time you get to like Virginia and things like that. But if you are along the southeastern coast of the United States, you can probably take a look out over the ocean, and assuming that the sky is clear enough, you could catch a glimpse of Falcon 9 flying tonight. If you are south of Kennedy Space, if you are just south of the Kennedy Space Center, feel free to look up and you might catch a glimpse. But if you're down near Miami or something, this rocket is not headed your direction, and I don't think you'll be able to catch a glimpse of that with your naked eye. Although, of course, I invite you to watch our webcast instead as a very close second place to seeing a launch in person.
Kimberly Thompson, thank you for the membership. Robert, thank you for the $5 Canadian. What can I do as a normal person to help make humans a multiplanetary species? Asks Praboom Boom.
You can do that a couple different ways. If you are in the United States, to be specific, you could support those kind of efforts, or support politicians who support those kind of efforts as far as NASA funding is concerned. Any member of the United States can, of course, have the opportunity to influence U.S. government space policy that way, telling your representatives or your senators that that's something important to you can go a long way sometimes. Outside of the United States, the same kind of holds for your respective government space agencies. If they want to make that sort of goal a priority, you can certainly let your representatives know that. I guess in theory, you could also become a Starlink customer, because if you buy Starlink internet service from SpaceX, that's giving them revenue. And of course, SpaceX's stated goal is making humans a multiplanetary species. So in theory, that would also help. Not sponsored by SpaceX, I should clarify. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Any sort of
Well, in addition to that, there are other ways to that you could help as well. If you, if you're still young enough and you're looking at educational tracks, you could go into astrophysics or astronomy, or aerospace engineering.
An engineering student might have mentioned that on stream if he remembered.
Well, we won't say anything. But yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what your comfortability level is, because I mean, also, I mean, when we talk about sending humans to permanently settle another planet, we're not talking about one or two going. We're talking about a lot of people with diverse backgrounds and people who also just are okay with getting the really hard, what we would call grunt work done, that absolutely has to be done to build that foundation. So there are many ways, either direct monetarily, through your education and your chosen field and the workforce that you enter, to up to and including, hey, I don't mind leaving Earth and going there and helping set it up. So lots of options. Just kind of depends on what your comfort level is with it.
Cool. And let's see. Rosianne says the vertical assembly building light is out, so the horizon looks totally black. Is there something different with the VAB tonight, Thomas or Chris?
I'm
Nope.
staring right at the VAB, and it's pretty bright here. So I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to. I mean, to be fair, it's a little hazy out from certain times, so maybe there's somewhere where they just can't see the VAB because of haze. There is some sort of low haze, but if I'm standing right next to the building, I can show you the lights are on.
It probably depends on what side of the building you're looking on. If you're looking at the south side, it's very lit up. If you're looking at the east and west side, where the stacking bays are, like where SLS is being stacked right now, it's not incredibly lit up, but that's normal. So yeah, no, nothing out of the ordinary. No.
And then a question about what does L17 mean in the Starlink mission title, Thomas?
Yep. Well, it means launch 17. It should be specified, though, that does not necessarily go in chronological order. It's in the order that the missions kind of get to range readiness and get ready to launch. This particular mission made its first launch attempt before the L18 and L19 missions, but due to various reasons, this mission has been delayed a bit. So it kind of appears to be launching out of order now. But it is the Starlink version 1.0 launch 17 is its full title.
Yep, and then Dougal, thank you for the super chat. Dougal's a big supporter of the stream, so thank you so much for the continued support, Dougal. And then Custard says, I like the word you guys do with a cat emoji. Great.
Thank you very much.
$1.49,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Ooh, this is a good one. Fractal says, they received my Starlink satellite today, watching this from Starlink internet. That
No
is
kidding.
cool.
Very nice.
So internet rocket with Starlinks being watched by customer with previously launched Starlinks. I like that.
Oh, great. Starlink's self-replicating now. Fantastic.
Let us know how the 1080p at 60 frames per second streaming works on Starlink. That would be a good stress test.
Yeah.
And then, question from Alexis: why is Falcon 9's weather so sensitive, Chris?
Yeah. It's a good question. So it's not in many ways. In many ways, Falcon 9's weather constraints are in practice no real different than any other rockets, right? Every rocket has an upper level wind threshold that if the winds are blowing in just the right direction, creating shear, or just their actual velocity sometimes can be too much. The Soyuz almost encountered that earlier this morning, launching the Arctica M satellite. Was right at the upper level wind limits for it. We notice it more though with Falcon 9. We notice its weather quirks more so than we notice the other rockets, simply because it launches more than other rockets. So you have and it launches so rapidly that a lot of what you start to see are the patterns emerging of the times of year when upper level winds are more of a concern, right? Which is our winter and spring months versus our summer and autumn months, where upper level winds tend to be more favorable to us. You also see the added complexity of it's not just the weather at the Kennedy Space Center that has to be good for liftoff. Your weather in the downrange recovery zones has to be good to recover your booster. So it's not that it's more finicky. It's not that the Falcon 9 is like, ooh, lightning, I can't go. Whereas other rockets are like, yeah, let me have it. It's just that, in fairness, the Falcon flew 28 times last year or something like that.
26, right?
26 times last year. The Atlas V, the other stalwart of our space program here in the U.S., flew significantly less than that. Still not an insignificant number of times, but just the sheer number of times you do something, the more you're going to see the weather probabilities pop up, and that's really just what we see with Falcon 9 in that regard.
Yeah. And then a question about the Crew 2 launch time. I think it's sometime
Before
in the
4
early
and
morning.
5 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, so early morning, or not like 3 a.m. early, but like 5 a.m. early launch from LC-39A, which is the same pad you are looking at right now. And as we get closer towards launch, I'm sure NASA will announce the exact to-the-minute launch time.
And right on cue at T-minus 20 minutes, we have our T-minus 20-minute vent, the very standard look at oxygen vent that occurs during every Falcon 9 countdown, a good sign that everything is still on track for tonight's launch.
What an angle of it from here as well, with it going behind the crew tower there.
Yeah, it's
That's
awesome.
cool.
It's in full dramatic mode tonight, yes.
Yeah. Nice. It almost gives you like a little bit more context, like that plume is going between the tower and the water tower, like the crew tower is in the foreground and the water tower is in the background. So that's, I don't know that I've ever, you can see the shadows of the plume as well up on the rocket. That is a really cool shot.
Das, I hate to correct you, but that's a fixed service structure. It's a legacy shuttle piece of equipment. Don't want to get you in trouble with it. It is.
It doesn't seem like it was very fixed because they carted most of it off, Thomas.
Well, no, they carted the rotating service structure off. Das, come on.
I will be laughing because I love this conversation. I do believe SpaceX calls it the crew tower, though. I do not believe it is currently called the FSS.
Never mind.
Yeah.
They painted it and put a flag on it, so they get to name it.
That's true. All right, fair enough.
Although,
you win this
to be
time.
Fair, yeah, exactly. Although to be fair, who knows? Cargo Dragons launch off of there. We're going to have a mobile towering system for integration. Maybe they'll change the name of it, but I do believe they refer to it as the crew tower or the access tower. Yeah,
it's going to be like the late load human and cargo extended appenditure. Like, I don't know, they're just going to make up some stuff just to mess with
Block
us.
Here's one thing I know for certain. It doesn't have an acronym because they don't like that in SpaceX.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Their entire name is an acronym. It's Space Exploration Technologies, and
That's
they just
true.
go by SpaceX. You can't
it's
not like
It's an abbreviation, not
Is it an abbreviation? I don't.
Anyway, we're digressing.
Yeah, we're digressing.
How about a question? Yes.
It's happening there. Let me grab some super chats really quickly here, y'all. And if there's any mission control audio, we should be getting the mission control audio through on the stream as well. So if there's something that comes through and we don't hear it, let me know, because we are expecting to be able to hear that now. So a couple super chats. Bryce Kling, thank you for the support, saying hopefully they land the booster. RIP B1059. So Bryce, we appreciate you there. Mike Smith saying, do you know how many long nights I've been waiting for this launch to go? Probably as many as us if you showed up every time.
Though,
how long was your drive, Mike?
I was going to say, though, to be fair, much happier that we are here for its actual first liftoff attempt at 8:30 p.m. instead of 6 a.m.
Yeah, when this mission was first scheduled for, that's true. You get very lucky when the Starlink launch window moves, 20 minutes earlier every day?
Yes.
So eventually, a really early morning launch becomes a very pleasant late evening launch. And we like that better.
And then here's a question I'll toss over to y'all. James Alexander says, what's your best guess as to why SpaceX has not been able to catch fairings consistently yet?
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard.
Okay, so, all right, you have to keep in mind, you are trying to take a fairing, which is very light and under parachute, and thus very easily affected by wind, for example, and catch it in a boat, which is fighting currents and sea states and things like that. That's a lot of variables to take into account, and there's only so much things you can solve with like computer automation and things like that. Also, boats are usually pretty. Those boats are pretty fast, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But they're still boats, so they have limited speeds. So between all of that, it's a lot easier to see how letting the fairing splash down wherever it goes, and then going and getting out of the water would be way more consistent.
Well, and it's the equivalent too of like you're blindfolded, you're standing on, pick whatever sport uses a ball that you wish. You're standing on the field or the pitch, you're blindfolded, and someone hurls the ball at you, and in your ear someone's yelling left, right, forward,
Right.
back, and you have and put your hand out, like that's kind of a good analogy for what it's like trying to catch these things as they're coming down. Yeah.
Said they've done it a couple times, and maybe they have some ideas on how to make it more consistent. We'll have to wait and see. Regardless, it can be said that fairing recovery has had at least a little bit of success, considering one of these halves is flying on its 4th mission tonight. So clearly, that has been worth it in the meantime, even if it did not work out the way they originally hoped, at least originally.
All right. And that's the sort of thing that's SpaceX's deal. Like, they started off with one honestly quite wacky idea, and it didn't go exactly the way they thought, like that old ITS/BFR/ all the other things that they used to talk about with Starship, that Starship has sort of turned into. And same thing here with the fairing catchers. They were trying some wacky ideas. Are they going to change it? Are they going to just do scooping? Like, what are they going to do? The cool thing is that they haven't invested $80 billion in this one way of doing things, right? They always try to stay flexible. They get the data back. They say, wow, that wasn't working the way we thought, but here's like a compromise, or here's a way to change it and make it better. That is a strength, I think, that they have, the ability to not be too locked in to the plans that they're trying to make.
Which we see very clearly tonight, too, by letting the fairings just simply splash into the water and then go fish them out afterwards.
Absolutely. Yep. Let me grab a couple more here at T-14. Corporal CPL, I think it's Corporal Daywalker, saying, once again, I love the work you all do, with $50 in that one.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Daywalkers. We appreciate you. And SC, this is live right now. I mean, but if you come back and you're watching the recording, then it wouldn't be live. But when is now going to be but anyways, this is live. But we are live right now. Waiting for this launch, which has not occurred, coming up on 14 minutes. Go ahead. There was somebody just breathing, and I heard them breathe.
Oh, I readjusted my headset, but I have nothing to add.
I thought somebody was like, and I heard a breath like somebody was going to talk, so I was going to let you talk. But Gib, thanks a million, y'all. I was able to pre-order Starlink in Southwest Arizona today. Can't wait for good internet down here. Good
Very
deal,
nice.
Gib. Zyklon B95 is a member. Welcome to the club. That's the first member we got in this stream. If you're a member, you get access to some cool stuff. Depending on the level, sometimes you get early video access. We got a Discord for the top 2 levels that you can chat with other like-minded space fans and that sort of thing. Thank you so much, Zyklon, for the member. I was trying to scroll to see if there were any other members, and there weren't. Banjo, appreciate the support. And then Aria as well. Thank you so much. Citizen Blue says Louisiana needs Starlink. Well, that's why they're launching more here in about 13 minutes. Kotnik Narcotics, or Kotik Narcotics says, Starlink to the moon, Doge to my donate. So this is Kotnik, or Kotik, I think is the right terminology there. Thank you so much for the support. We're a little bit behind here, so I'll grab a couple more. Future Martian says, another viewer watching using Starlink. So apparently Starlink's starting to get out to the wild.
Yep. So hopefully that.
Wait, Future Martian. Wait, Anthony, one of our writers,
Yeah,
should be
yeah.
super chatting us, but okay, hi.
Well, they help out by writing articles, and then they also help out by super chatting. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that.
Okay.
We appreciate you there, Future Martian. Jam Session. What's up, Jam Session? How you doing? It says, I too am testing Starlink. Looks forward to 1080 60 FPS tests tonight from Northern California. So Jam Session. A couple Starlink users here checking in as it begins to sort of become a little bit more available.
I love how far down in latitude we're creeping, too.
Yeah.
Northern California now. All right, come on. Like, one more state's length and you get to Florida. Come on.
We got one more big one I'm not going to let sit. Snake Snake with a $50 super chat saying cheers, keep up the good work. With a question, any guesses on how long they'll continue the multiple static fires before they move to a more Falcon model? And I guess multiple static fires would be Starship there, right?
Yeah, I guess they're talking about Starship at that point. So the plan for SN10, for example, was to only have one static fire. The reason they did a second one is because they had to swap out an engine that showed some bad data. So that was a direct result of the first static fire. If the first static fire was nominal, they would have proceeded from there. Granted, when you might be, if the question is more, when might we expect the static fire to almost always be nominal the first time and thus only need one every time, that's when Starship moves into operational missions and is no longer a development vehicle undergoing a test program. They're still learning a lot about Raptor, they're still learning a lot about Starship, and so once they get to more operational missions and are launching payloads to orbit and things like that, that is the point where you'll see a lot more consistent performance from Raptor and from Starship, and those pre-flight static fires will likely only be one. Maybe at some point they even move to zero like they have with some Falcon 9 missions. So that's still a matter of just being a development and test program.
And exactly what I was going to add to that. I think with Starship, what you will eventually see is a transition to, well, the static fire for this flight was the ignition and launch that it just did 3 hours ago. And I think we'll move into that because the latest stated goal that Elon has said publicly was that the Starship's booster and Starship were being designed for up to 3 reuses a day. So, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if we get away from static fires.
Gotcha. And let me do this real quick over from the Twitch side. I haven't forgot about you. I am super busy running the broadcast a lot of times. But Defense, thank you so much for the sub. And then some resub from longtime viewers here. Mac92 for 38 months over on Twitch. And then Vincino, Danielito for 2 months. And there was another one in here, Jam Session on both streams. So over on my Twitch stream and over here on the YouTube stream, 74 months. Jam Session has been subbed to my Twitch stream. 74 months. That's an awful long time.
That's
Jam
more
Session.
than my car payment loan.
That's longer than your car payment. Jam Session, I really do appreciate you showing up. I know that I don't do as much talking to Twitch, but I saw that pop through, and I wanted to say thank you for the long time support. One of the original, one of the OG viewers over there on Twitch. I really appreciate you, Jam Session. Thank you so much for everything you've done, especially for my Twitch channel, so that we could get to the point where somehow we had figured out how to do all the things that we do nowadays. So I really do appreciate your support. Let's see here. We're at 8.5, well, not quite 8.5 minutes. 8 minutes and 44, 43, 42 seconds before the launch. So let's see if we can grab one more question. Yeah. We can grab this real quick. Matthew Sinetra saying, do you think drone ships will have Starlink eventually? Drone ships already have Starlink antennas on them. Yep. Via FleetCam, we have seen multiple antennas on the drone ships. How exactly do they work? Do they have full coverage, et cetera, et cetera? We don't have that information, but we have definitely spotted Starlink antennas on drone ships. So maybe...
would not be at all surprised if some of the landing footage we have seen has beamed through the Starlink network back to us. Because we have seen, as they've built the constellation, we have seen major improvements in keeping the signal and the quality of the signal as the boosters are coming down to land. Yeah. And that just doesn't happen in the middle of the ocean.
It really doesn't. Hey, here's a regular question. At this point, we may put a hold on all the Super Chats until after the launch. So I see more and more Super Chats coming in. Psych with another $50. Love the footage you guys provide. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
But thank you so much for the support there. And I'm going to grab this one. Kevin says, NASA Spaceflight, my friend Crystal just started watching you guys. Can she get a shout out?
What's up, Crystal? Thanks for watching.
Indeed. Hi, Crystal.
That's how y'all do a shout out. I was just going to sort of say,
oh, you were just going to shout out. I get it.
I was just going to shout. Maybe I'm just old and don't know what I'm doing on the internet. Anyways, Kevin, thanks for watching.
I believe you pronounced an acronym ZOMG a little earlier, but I was willing to let it go. But since we brought it up, no.
Get off my yard, okay? No. Oh gosh, I even messed that up. Hey, Kevin, what I was going to say, you're like, oh my gosh, why did you do that? Thank you so much not only for watching, but for sharing what's going on with the launches and our coverage with your friends. So thank you so much for helping spread the word. The more people we get excited about this, the more people who understand what's going on and how important space is and how it affects our daily lives and sort of where we're going, the better. So thank you so much for sharing that. We
And like to that end, Dos, like I think it's a good moment to kind of stop for a second and say, like, it's hard on these prolonged historic launches, right? Like, to really understand what you're seeing and what type of a change it is from how we operate, right? Like, certain things it's really easy to be in the moment historically about, like, right when crew launches returned on the Falcon 9, right? When people go to space, when you have hugely important one-off missions, right? Like Perseverance, right? Really easy to understand the historic nature of what you are watching in that moment. It's a little bit different when you're like, and here's another 60 batch of Starlink satellites, but it's 60 that brings the overall number of the constellation over 1,200, and they need 1,500 to do that initial global service. So
we just had
that was a meteor. Yes,
I was gonna say we just had a meteor Ariana right over the
Yeah.
press site, by the way.
Really?
that was cool. Yeah, right over the pad. It was really cool.
I wonder if Fleet Cam would have seen that. We were recording on Fleet Cam, but we'll have to check and see if
It wasn't like super bright, so
Yeah?
maybe
Yeah.
I doubt it, but wouldn't hurt to check. Anyway, continue, Chris. Sorry.
Yes, but
Alright.
but you know, so it's harder when it's like 60 Starlinks that are part of something larger. But like all the people who have just checked in, right? All the people in really remote areas who have already talked about, like, you know, firefighters and first responders and people responding to natural disasters who have already used this. It's important to remember that element of the system as well, right? We get all like, ooh, internet and I can take it anywhere, which is really cool, don't get me wrong. But it's what this system is capable of doing in a natural disaster if the terrestrial network is taken down. That's
Right.
impressive, right? Because think about it, like an earthquake, a hurricane, or something passes over your area and the infrastructure is down. As long as you can plug that Starlink receiver and modem into a battery pack, you can get word out like, hey, I'm fine, or hey, I need help, right? Where other systems aren't going to work after natural disasters. That's a huge part of the system that I think gets overlooked as well, but it is an important part of the system.
And it sounded like we just got a call out over the official net. I believe that was Strongback there.
About 4 minutes out. That's about
Yep.
right. Yep.
4 minutes out. So we did hear that, so that is coming through correctly. Y'all, it's a complicated system of levers and pulleys, and there's steam that comes out of computers and stuff to get all these different sources rolled together. SpaceX does not make it easy because it's like 3 words per 8 minutes on their official LaunchNet stream.
Right.
So we never know if it's coming through correctly, but that came through. So whew.
Yeah, and 3 seconds over 8 minutes, and we're like, oh, that's a good sign. You know?
Yep.
So we are 3 minutes and 30 seconds here. Chris, Thomas, is there anything y'all need to do for setup?
I'm
I
going to set
personally-
up my personal camera for a launch photo here in just a second, and then I'll be back to get ready for liftoff. I'll still be on comms and everything, but I'm going to go do that right now.
All right.
Wish me luck on my photography attempt, chat.
Yep. And y'all, we are, this is a new camera that we're using. We've actually got like an actual broadcast, like news broadcast style camera instead of a little handy cam, handheld camcorder thing like we used to use.
Thanks
Hey,
to
it
the
worked.
support of members like you.
Exactly right. We were able to upgrade to this better camera because of y'all's support, and we are still gaining experience using it. So while we talk about things,
Strong back lowers close out.
that was just strong back closeout we heard.
Mhm.
As we sort of go through this, we are learning. So
Phase
you'll
one,
see
lock,
some
load, close
things
out.
flip. That was locks load closeout as well. You'll see some things flip around. We're going to be trying to manage the brightness of the rocket and that sort of stuff. But this is one of the very first runs we've actually this specific camera, the very first run. And capturing rocket launches is not something you get to practice much. You can't like go out and be like, oh yeah, it's Tuesday, let's go practice some launches. You have to wait till there's a launch. So we are going to be seeing how good of a job we can do with this new camera this evening. But if you're just joining us, we are now 2 minutes away from a potential launch. This is a Falcon 9 rocket. It has Starlink satellites, those SpaceX internet satellites aboard up in the fairing, and it is going to be trying to head to orbit shortly, under 2 minutes now. So thank y'all so much for joining us. Hoping that everything's looking good. We have not heard any holds or anything like that. And I hope that we get a launch.
Absolutely. So at T-minus 1 minute, Falcon 9 will enter startup, which is the point where the onboard computers take control of everything and begin pressurizing the tanks to flight levels. And then at T-minus... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Engine chill has already started. My apologies. The stage 1 engines are already being thermally conditioned for launch. And yeah, so T-minus 1 minute is startup, and then at T-minus 3 seconds, we'll have command engine start. So coming up on the business end of this countdown. Daz, would you like me to go ahead and configure this camera for liftoff?
Launch abort has started.
Or I can do it at the last second if you want.
Yeah. Let's
They
let's
just
go ahead.
say-
And, go ahead
Well,
and configure.
Well, launch
They
auto
just-
just started.
They just aborted the scrub.
They aborted?
Wait,
It's a
what?
scrub. They abort. That was the call out we just heard. Launch abort has started, and I have confirmed that they have held the countdown at T-minus 1 minute and 24 seconds.
LD on
Oh,
countdown. We have
Starlink.
Stand by. Stand by.
abort at T-minus 1 minute and 24 seconds.
Looks like I said.
Yep.
Abort
so-
at T-minus 1 minute and 24 seconds. But yes,
yeah.
that is going to mean that Starlink V1
Right.
L17 is going to remain on the ground for yet another day.
And
This thing
this
is-
makes the Florida team happy that Starship isn't doing anything tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll have to be back here tomorrow evening. Most likely, yes.
All right, so to catch everyone up, we'll get the countdown clock off. There you go, Michael's got it. Tonight's launch has been aborted. We don't have a cause, but at 1 minute 24 seconds before liftoff, there was an abort called. That weird kind of time in the countdown likely points to some sort of technical issue rather than a weather thing that they would have checked at like T-minus 1 minute or something. But too early to really speculate any further than that, so we'll keep you updated. But tonight's launch has been scrubbed. We will stand by for news from SpaceX on when they might attempt again. They do have a window tomorrow, should they be ready for that. And that time should be around 8:16 or 15, somewhere around there.
22 to 24 minutes earlier each day. But
Right,
it's
so
not an
8:15
exact number.
Yeah, 8:14, 8:15. But tomorrow evening they should have a backup attempt, so we will stand by to see if they can make that attempt. But tonight has been scrubbed due to an unknown issue.
They have not clarified
Yeah.
what the issue was yet. I've been looking. I have not seen any reason, so that's the way it goes sometimes, but hopefully we'll find out what happens soon.
Yeah, and again, y'all, we are aware that their broadcast, they've put T-minus 15 minutes up on the screen for some reason, but they're explaining that it is scrubbed.
No,
here.
that's important. That's the recycle point that we keep talking about. That after they
Yes.
get past a certain point, they have to go back. And that's what makes it an instantaneous window, because there was only 5 minutes left after the liftoff point today.
Right. But the thing was, the SpaceX feed all of a sudden started acting like people were yelling in chat that it was, it just reset to T-minus 15. They're going to try again, but it's a short window. They can't do that here. That's not an option, right, Chris?
Right, but it's for the reason that I just said, because when you hold after you go past your last stable hold point, you do have to recycle the count to that point first before completely backing out of everything. So this is like go back to the last stable moment in the configuration of the vehicle before you started really configuring it for liftoff. That's normal. It doesn't mean exactly what you said, Doss, right? It means it doesn't mean we're lifting off. It's just that's what you technically have to go back to first.
Right, and they displayed that on the stream, which I think confused a lot of people, thinking they were still going for it. They were just resetting the clock for T-minus 15, but that's not an
Exactly.
option with these launches. That's just their processing on their end that they have to do. But with the window that these things have to hit, if you don't find that issue more than 15 minutes in advance, probably a little bit more than that, right? You can't like reschedule for the middle of the window, the end of the window, because it's just you got one shot in the window, you know.
Yeah, you can adjust going into the window a couple of hours beforehand. Like
Yes.
if it's a short window like this, like, and they were like, there's weather moving in, instead of waiting 5 minutes into the window, let's go at the beginning. As much chance as we got, right?
Yeah.
You
Gotcha.
can do that, but yeah.
Okay. Well, whenever y'all have to start packing up, let us know. I can certainly read a couple more super chats. Make sure we get the rest of the questions here. But Thomas and Chris, let me know when you have to pack up, okay?
Yeah,
Will
we're good
do.
for a little bit.
All right. So let's see here. Greg Papadettos says, it's not much, but I hope it helps. We appreciate the $3, Greg. It all adds up. So thank you very much for the support. Eric Rubenstein sneaking through with 10 Canadian saying good work. Thank you, Eric. Stan Riley's a new member. Welcome to the club. We've got Timothy Hennigan, actually, saying, watching with my Starlink as well in northern Nevada. Don Travis came through with a question and said, when will these be released into position? I saw a clip of the satellites lined up in the sky like a conga line. I want to catch it in California. So,
I know what you're referring to. Yes.
Yeah. Those views are available a day or 2 or 3 after the launch, maybe not even 3 anymore. That you have to see that right after the launch, and they have to be passing you at just the right time. So there's a couple calculators online where you can put in your position and look at this launch that's occurring. I'm not sure how much those are being maintained. I'm sure they're being added to go ahead.
Yeah, Flight Club with run by Declan is the best source that I've seen for those. In terms of like the visibility predictions after liftoff of when that train will come overhead. Yeah.
Gotcha. So if you go to flightclub.io, there's some capability there where you can try to put in your position and calculate whether or not you'll be able to see the Starlink train. But before you can see a Starlink train, it has to launch first. And it didn't launch today, so not going to be seeing any Starlink trains until they get this thing into orbit. Don, thank you so much. And check out Flight Club. Michael put that on the screen there for a second, but check out flightclub.io. Let's see here. Christopher Wedby says, yeah, we're at now, but when will then be now? Soon. Thanks, Christopher. I appreciate you picking up what I was putting down. Ron Tronimus, appreciate the support. And then we've got Mr. Friendly B with 20 euros. Wow, it's late over there, saying, I pre-ordered Starlink from Belgium, paid the $99 deposit. They said the service wouldn't be available until 2022. So really getting on that list there, huh, Mr. Friendly B? Paying the deposit for something that won't even be around until next year. Thank you so much for sharing 20 euros with us. We'll put that to use right now. So let's see here. TatSim TV. Any ideas why no views from stage 1? So I think, was that something they said on the official feed?
Yeah, they said that there was going to be no views from stage 1. I don't think they said why. So presumably the camera that provides that view is having some sort of technical problem.
Okay.
Which may not be something that actually warrants a scrub on its own, so they might have been proceeding regardless, although they did scrub eventually, so.
There was a previous launch, though, where I think they lost the stage 2 cameras.
Right.
And Elon even tweeted about this, and he said, that's not a problem for launch, but we are scrubbing because we want to understand why that's happening in case there's some larger problem that caused them to lose the cameras. So I have no idea if the cameras being down or what caused the scrub today, but that is something they have scrubbed a launch for in the past.
Right. Good deal. Aaron Coakley says, I don't think any sane person wants to be on flight number 1.0 of Starship SN10 that hasn't undergone at least one static fire engine test. I think this is a comment on the chat that we had earlier about the static fires happening at Boca Chica. I'm fine with static fires. I like watching static fires. They're very exciting. So, Aaron, thank you so much for sharing the $5 with us here. I've just got a couple more to get through. Let's see. How's the Starlink up and down speed so far? So we've seen all sorts of different reports, seeing some of it that's sort of competing with 4G LTE if you've got good signals, seen some really good reports, seen a couple reports that Starlink was barely giving them any bandwidth. So it's still an experimental program. A lot sort of across the board, people are happy with it because it's really intended for those people that are way out there and just have no real way to get internet. And they understand that there's still gaps in the coverage and stuff like that. So I think as it matures, we'll start to get a little bit better information about exactly what Starlink is capable of. And SpaceX will always be upgrading it. So they're
to support local restaurants, we've been to every city, including Little Rock.
And even Worcester.
And what?
Intarnation. Was the Countdown Net audio come to an end and then you got an advertisement on YouTube?
I believe so, yes, but that was not supposed to be set up. Interesting.
I thought DOS had done a really weird segue.
No. Okay. All right, well.
Oops. Free advertising for them, I guess.
I am still trying to find the source of that audio. Anyway.
Well, you turned it off, so...
Well, I turned everything off. Like step one is turn everything off, Michael, and then turn things back on. So, okay, well, that was surprising. Interesting.
All right, the parking lot is clearing out pretty well. Maybe a couple more, and then we'll need to pack it up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see here. Here's a question real quick. Let's see if we get the questions. Kenneth Schroeder asks, any news on more polar Starlink launches? Alaska needs coverage too.
Yes. So I think those would be primarily flights of opportunity on transporter missions at this point, most of which are going sun-synchronous into the general vicinity of a polar orbit that the Starlinks would need. So I think those are generally going to be that. They have looked at different inclinations, different altitudes, and everything like that. There are plans to get full, complete global coverage. Some of it involves higher altitudes. Some of it involves different inclinations. They're still kind of all working through what they want, and as part of that, what the FAA will approve. There's a whole different FAA approval process for Starlink than we've heard recently with Starship, but the FAA ultimately does have to have approval for Starlink mission launches and what altitudes they're in and what orbits they're in. So they'll figure it out, but polar isn't necessarily key to getting complete global coverage, because some of these high inclination flights, like 53, 55 degree inclinations, if they're high enough, can still see the polar regions to cover them.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. And let's see here. There's a couple more here. I'm going to grab this one because I don't think we can get through all of them. Y'all are going to have to pack up. But Mark Russell here a couple minutes ago saying, first-time viewer and public safety system administrator. Looking forward to what Starlink can provide for connectivity for first responder networks.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely something that is a challenge, getting internet connectivity when you're responding to natural disasters. First responders across the board, all sorts of stuff, not just natural disasters. But,
and not just natural disasters, but Tom, who has a cabin off the grid, up a mountain, needs help, and you need to get there, right? I mean, it's even responding to like the things just outside of city limits that you kind of scratch your head on. You're like, how do I not have signal, right? I'm right near the city, but that wilderness and communication gap can be very, very close to major population centers that we don't normally think about. So yeah, first responders definitely, not just in natural disaster situations, but everyday life too. This could really be beneficial to them.
Absolutely. So, folks, I do believe that is going to be, we always, when there's a scrub, we don't just say like, oh, it's a scrub, see you later, and shut down the train immediately. There's always more questions in the queue. There's super chats to say thank you for. Just across the board, we usually don't shut it down, even though most of the people come here to see the launch. Apparently 20,000 people showed up to see the launch, and then that scrub got called, and still 8,000 people here. But we typically don't just immediately stop the stream. We still have the camera feed. We want to continue to answer your questions and stuff like that. But we have run out of time here for today's coverage. Still standing by. I don't think we've seen a tweet from SpaceX or anything about an official window tomorrow, have we? I'm talking very slowly. Let's see. Internet connectivity. Okay, they're advertising Starlink, but I don't see anything on the official feed there about officially recycling for tomorrow. But here's the deal. Even if SpaceX hasn't announced when they're going to try this again, if you follow us here at NASA Spaceflight, when they do another try, we will be back live again. So if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notifications, follow us on Twitter at NASASpaceflight. That's the main Twitter account. And if something's going on, if there's a live stream that happens, that Twitter account right there will tweet it out. Also, to reiterate, we did get information from Boca Chica Gal that there will be no SN10 flight attempt tomorrow. Originally, we were looking for Monday, but Mary got notification that they would not be evacuating the village tomorrow. They would be trying to fly no earlier than Wednesday of this week. So if you're a Starship fan, a Texas tank watcher down there waiting for SN10 to fly, that is now no earlier than Wednesday. Courtesy of Mary repeating the evacuation conversations that have been happening down there. But out at the Cape tonight, we had Chris Gebhardt and Michael. No, we didn't have Michael. And Thomas Berghardt. Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight. Thank you so much for rolling out, even though I got scrubbed.
Our
Oh,
pleasure.
sorry.
Yes.
I got
What?
distracted by some amusing space news.
Wait, is there anything we need to talk about, or?
Okay, we've got Thomas, and then we got Christy, and then I'll say what I was about to say.
Okay, good. So there's Thomas over there as well.
Apparently, Rocket Lab is developing a larger launch vehicle.
Wait, what?
No way.
At least that's what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Rocket Lab is going to go public to raise money for a bunch of things, including a larger launch vehicle to launch constellations. And if you have been following Rocket Lab, you know that Peter Beck, the CEO of Rocket Lab, has always been promising that that did not make sense based on the market they were trying to serve. So
So what you're saying is we need to have Peter Beck back on NSFY, and we're gonna have to ask how many hats he's eating now.
because he also said they would never recover a rocket, and obviously they've already done that.
Right? Yeah.
So.
Maybe like 2 hats cancel out, and then he just doesn't have to do either. I don't know what the calculus on that is. But anyways, back in the studio, y'all, we had Michael Baylor as well. Michael, thank you so much for the late breaking news there. Also, the purveyor.
And for getting distracted at my job.
Michael is the one who actually makes these little pictures appear up in the corner, right? So Michael is also the purveyor of the fine launch notification app NASASpaceflight. So if you want your phone to go bingly bingly boop whenever a launch is occurring, NASASpaceflight is a cool way to see what is coming up next in terms of spaceflight all over the world. So Michael, I know you normally don't shout that out, but it's a really cool app, and you can't stop me from saying it.
Hey Das, I don't mean to stop you, but we're literally like we gotta go. There's
right.
no other time. Yeah.
So that is going to bring an end to our live coverage this evening, folks. You don't have to go home. You can go watch Fleet Cam if you want. Fleet Cam? Feet Cam? None of this makes any sense. We make more money from Feet Cam. But y'all are clear to pack up that camera over there at Cape Canaveral. Chris and Thomas, thank y'all so much for rolling out this evening. And here from the NASA Spaceflight Studio, I am John Galloway, wishing y'all a good night as we stand by for more information on when they may try to get this Starlink launch off the ground. It's not happening tonight, though, so stay tuned, and we will see you nerds next time.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Water towers fly! Flight downside at speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.